Good evening, Brian. It's Tuesday. First off, sorry about the lighting. As you can see, I'm in the living room and it's late, so it's dark, so there's not too much light coming in from outside, and the lights in the living room are up behind me, so that's not ideal for this, so I apologize for that. I think there's 4 things I want to talk about tonight, Brian. The first thing is in response to your discussion, or your response to my response about Thursday Top 5s. I definitely think that that is probably a good idea. That's sort of what I was getting at, lowering the requirement for having a Thursday Top 5, although there's no really differentiation between lowering it to a set amount and just saying, we're not required to, we can do it if we feel like it, but otherwise we don't have to. And I think that's probably the best, because like we both were sort of saying, sometimes it feels like it can run out of creativity and you can run out of ideas for it, and so then it just seems like you're doing a thing to do the thing and it's not as good as it could be otherwise, and you just feel obligated to do it, and that is not a good way to come up with creative content or topics. So I like that. Let's try just not having that requirement for now, and if we miss it we can come back to it, or if we think of other ideas we can come back to those. Point 2. You asked me about your beard and opinions for what I think you should do with it. I definitely get the feeling, I definitely get the motivation to want to try to grow it out or do something different. That happens to me sometimes too. But I agree, that's one thing I've noticed, especially with mine as well, is that sometimes you have to get the sides in a little bit, even if you're letting it grow longer this way. Otherwise it just turns into like a chia pet on your face, and that's no good, unless it's what you're going for, but it sounds like it's not. So I think you've got some good instincts. Try and just clean up the edges and the stragglers and shape it a little bit towards what you want, and then just see how it goes. I usually go and have cycles of where I'm like, oh, maybe I should let my beard get a little bit longer, and then I do that for a few weeks or a month or so, and then I'm like, nope, this looks messy, and then I cut it short, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should let it go longer, and then I let it go longer, and then I think it looks messy and cut it short. So that's definitely how that thing goes. But yeah, so there you go with that. Point 3, I think your game sounds really interesting. I think that's really exciting to think about possibly starting your own game and hosting your own games and stuff like that. But that's really cool, and that's a whole different side of the role-playing thing, which is kind of neat too. You can experience it one way by playing games, but in coming around the other side of it and trying to think of how to make the games is an entirely different way to understand the same thing. So that's very exciting. I'm really glad that you're enjoying the role-playing game so much that you've been playing, and I think all the things that you mentioned about your game, The Tales of a Theoden, sound really, really cool. And I would love to meet up at some point and hear about more of the details about it and all of that. That sounds really interesting, but it definitely sounds like it's a cool thing and definitely a fun way to spend your time. I'm also familiar with the feeling of getting sort of stuck on a new hobby and spending a lot of time doing it and thinking about it all the time and getting really excited about it, and so that's very exciting. I'm glad that you are having that, and I look forward to hearing more about it in the future and seeing it turn into more of a real thing. The last topic, Brian, is that our dinner tonight was freaking delicious. We made grilled cheese burgers, which I don't know if you saw on Instagram, but it's burgers, but the 2 buns, instead of being buns, were grilled cheese sandwiches. Possibly one of the most decadent, unhealthy, disgusting things that we have had in a long, long time. But, oh man, were they so good. They turned out perfectly. The bread on the grilled cheese got super crispy, and the cheese was really, really melty and gooey. It was a new kind of cheese we haven't had before, and it worked out really well. It tasted great, and it melted really, really well. It was perfect for grilled cheeses, and then just stacked, piled high. I mean, like a grilled cheese, and then burger and burger toppings, and then a second grilled cheese. It was just super greasy and messy, and so, so tasty. But now I am uncomfortably full. We had those with tater tots, and it was a lot of food. But it's interesting, people have this idea in their head of what vegans eat, and that it's all, lettuce and salads. And don't get me wrong, I like a salad probably more than the next guy, and often usually make my salads in mixing bowls instead of in salad bowls, because the salad bowls are too small for me. But there's also lots of unhealthy food you can have, and you also don't really have to go without any of your favorite foods. Case in point, grilled cheeseburgers. And they were truly as greasy and satisfying and delicious as any burger I'd ever had before. And we don't eat like that all the time. We do often eat more healthy, with a lot more fresh vegetables and a lot less fried things and all that. But every once in a while, it's really nice to have, kind of a unhealthy, really greasy, heavy, rich, decadent thing. Like sort of comfort food-esque. That's nice to have every once in a while. And these were pretty tasty. So I just had to talk about them because they were really, really good. So I think that's all I have to talk about in this vlog, Brian. But I look forward to seeing your not for Thursday Top 5 later this week, and possibly hanging out with you soon, catching up and hearing about your game and talking about other things. So have a good night, and we'll see you later.